I Dream of Jeannie starred the great Barbara Eden as a 2,000-year-old Jeannie and Larry Hagman as Tony Nelson, the astronaut who discovered her bottle all washed up on the beach. Captain Nelson splashed down way off course in the South Pacific, and Jeannie summoned a rescue helicopter for her unwitting new master, before stowing away in his duffel bag. And viewers tuned into NBC to see what kind of new trouble Jeannie would create for Tony each week. But did it ever eclipse ABC's Bewitched? Let's go find out. Welcome to Do You Remember? I am Nostalgic Nick. I Dream of Jeannie did have a loyal following from 1965 to 1970, but its Nielsen ratings never got higher than 26th. In a desperate attempt to jumpstart ratings during its fifth and final season, network executives made an unpopular creative decision that eventually destroyed the show's entire premise and turned off everyone. Let's go find out why Jeannie's bottle was permanently corked up. But before we dive in, please hit that thumbs up icon to show support. And make sure you're subscribed to our channel so we can keep granting your wishes day after day. NBC tries to create its own magic. Pablo Picasso famously said that good artists borrow and great artists steal. Well, Picasso would have made a great television producer. After witnessing the success of Bewitched on ABC, the Peacock tapped Hollywood writer Sidney Sheldon to develop a completely original sitcom with a similar premise. Sheldon had just seen the 1964 film The Brass Bottle, starring Tony Randall and Burl Ives. The film was about an architect who gets more than he bargained for when he buys an antique brass bottle. Burl Ives plays the grateful Jeannie who creates plenty of trouble for Harold in his quest to grant his every wish.
Say the word, and I'll bring you 100 wives.
Sheldon decided to create a story about a female Jeannie and wanted her to be brunette to avoid confusion with Samantha from Bewitched. Unfortunately, none of the brunettes he auditioned had the flirty but naive quality he was looking for, and Sheldon eventually reached out to Barbara Eden, who played Tony Randall's fiancée in The Brass Bottle. Well, Eden refused to dye her hair, even though she often appeared as her evil brunette twin, Jeannie 2. In living color.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
I Dream of Jeannie did not have a large budget, and it was the final black and white show ever broadcast on NBC. Sidney Sheldon even offered to pay the extra $400 an episode to film the show in color. But Screen Gems executive Jerry Hyams didn't expect the show to last more than one season and told him not to throw his money away. Jeannie's magical smoke was created using dry ice fog and hidden fans, and the black and white format hid the limitations of the special effects. When season 2 was produced in color, they began to use colored lights to tint the smoke. And season 2 was also the first time we heard the show's iconic theme music. Be careful what you wish for. Barbara Eden and her husband, Michael Ansara, had been struggling to conceive for over 7 years, and she discovered she was finally pregnant the day the pilot was picked up. Eden insisted on meeting with Sidney Sheldon personally to let him know she would have to quit the show, but he assured her they could make it work, and they hid her behind set pieces, filmed her in close-up, and added extra veils to hide her pregnancy. Eden said the extra veils made her feel like a walking tent, but they managed to film 10 more episodes before she went on maternity leave. Creating Jeannie's look.
You and I had better have a talk.
Barbara Eden got to choose her own costume colors, and she selected pink and maroon. The pink represented her playful feminine side, and the maroon reflected the fiery and headstrong aspects of her personality. Jeannie's harem shoes were made by Neiman Marcus, and their sharp heels frequently got snagged on her sheer chiffon pants. Eden also said that network censors weren't bothered by her exposed navel until a writer from The Hollywood Reporter teased her about it on set, and then wrote about it in his column. Other tabloids picked up the story, and George Slaughter wanted to premiere her navel on Laugh-In. According to Eden, NBC had a fit, and then it had to stay covered from that point moving forward. The Nelson Home. Jeannie and Major Nelson's home is located on Blondie Street at the Warner Ranch in Burbank, California. It's called that because it was previously Dagwood and Blondie Bumstead's home in the 1940s Blondie films. The house also served as the Anderson family home on Father Knows Best and Mr. Wilson's home on Dennis the Menace. The Partridge family, well, they lived just next door. Let's just say the whole block is famous, as it appeared in the 1998 film Pleasantville. The Nelson home is currently the ranch's operations office and looks more or less the same today. Jeannie's magic bottle.
Oh, Alfred, look!
If you're gonna spend 2,000 years anywhere, you owe it to yourself to be comfortable. But the plush interior of Jeannie's bottle was actually a large set built on a soundstage. Barbara Eden had to climb an 8-foot ladder to get inside. When TV shows go off the air, studios store or dispose of the set pieces and props pretty quickly. But Larry Hagman reportedly had the bottle set delivered to his home and used it as a backyard shelter until it was damaged by neighborhood kids. We just can't have nice things. Jeannie's bottle when she wasn't inside was simply a decorative Jim Beam decanter, repainted and bedazzled, of course, by someone in the art department. Over a dozen prop bottles were created for the show, and the last remaining bottle went home with Barbara Eden. But after a friend pointed out that it was a one-of-a-kind piece of TV history, she began keeping it in a bank vault. In 2001, Barbara donated her magic bottle to the Smithsonian to preserve it for another 2,000 years. Speaking of bottles, Larry Hagman admitted to drinking as many as 5 bottles of champagne each day of filming, but claimed he was never drunk on set. Quote, just took little slugs throughout the day. In his autobiography, he also reported he was addicted to his wife's prescription diet pills. He said he took the pills twice a day and they gave him extra energy. But when his wife went for a prescription refill, they discovered the addictive drug was no longer legal. Hagman and his wife quit the drug immediately, and he also quit tobacco cold turkey. Well, Hagman reported having intense withdrawal symptoms almost immediately, including one infamous on-set breakdown that included crying, vomiting, and losing control of all bodily functions. Hagman said, quote, even the wax from my ears was coming out. I was exploding. Larry abused drugs and alcohol for decades and eventually required a life-saving liver transplant in 1995. But his drinking didn't affect his work with Barbara Eden. Barbara said she had acting chemistry and effortlessness with Hagman, and she never had it with anyone else before or since. Hagman was unhappy.
Thou art the most stubborn and ungrateful master I've ever served!
Larry Hagman reportedly became very difficult to work with in the later seasons and threatened to quit because he felt the scripts were getting repetitive. Sidney Sheldon warned Hagman that quitting a successful show would ruin his career, but he was ready to replace Hagman with Darren McGavin and already had a story written to explain the transition. NBC preferred Hagman and sent the producers back to the negotiating table. Hagman demanded new writers and an additional $5,000 per episode. NBC orders a change. By the time season 5 began, NBC was getting impatient. The show's Nielsen ratings never got higher than 26, and NBC executive Mort Werner suggested that an on-screen marriage would jumpstart the ratings. Barbara Eden, Larry Hagman, and Bill Daly all hated the idea, and Sheldon insisted that the change would destroy the show. He told Werner, quote, the fun of Jeannie is the sexual tension between Jeannie and her master. Once you marry them, that's gone. You have nothing to work with. Well, of course, Sheldon was right, but the NBC suits pulled rank, and the rest is history. Audiences rejected the obvious publicity stunt and the show's new direction. and the series was abruptly canceled at the end of the season. I'm sure they all got the news accordingly. No, not at all. Oh, Larry Hagman got the news from the security guard at the gate when he attempted to pull onto the Warner lot. During the Season 2 episode, The Birds and the Bees Bit, we learn that a genie loses her magical powers if she marries a mortal. Well, that seemed to be true. It took the magic out of I Dream of Jeannie. One of the biggest challenges any sitcom faces is developing new content as it gets renewed for additional seasons. And even the most popular shows experience steadily decreasing ratings over time. It was already costing more to keep Larry Hagman happy, and I Dream of Jeannie was never a contender in the ratings. So when NBC's ill-conceived attempt to boost ratings did not work, they cut their losses and moved on. Barbara Eden reprised her role for 2 made-for-TV movies in 1985 and 1991, but Larry Hagman declined to appear in either film. Barbara would re-team with Larry in 1971 for the NBC world premiere movie A Howling in the Woods, and she also guest starred on 5 episodes of Dallas in the early 90s. Both actors appeared together to promote the show's release on DVD, and they remained friends until Larry passed away in 2012. 91-year-old Barbara Eden is the only surviving cast member of I Dream of Jeannie. She received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on November 17, 1988. She married her 3rd husband in 1991 and released a children's book in 2021. So if you're watching, Barbara Eden, we love you at Do You Remember? Thank you for all you've done. That's been our look at the bad decisions and unfortunate events that led to I Dream of Jeannie's cancellation. Now we want to hear from all you fans. Do you think the magical wedding really killed the show? Or did the show simply run its course and was due to end? And finally, what is the best episode of I Dream of Jeannie that you recall? Get in the comments and tell us all. Before you depart, please hit that thumbs up icon if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to our channel for all things nostalgia. But from all of us here at Do You Remember, we want to thank you for watching.
Goodbye.
Oh, Jeannie, don't go!